4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome to the program. You're with the Editor-in-Chief live. Good to have you company. I'm Duncan, Garner. Welcome. Why do we have only 3 drug courts in New Zealand when all the evidence says they're a roaring success? Judges say prisoners become genuinely drug-free. We talked to a former prisoner with a meth addiction who is now 3 years clean and free thanks to the drug court. It's a great story. Today, we unapologetically stand for something, and we ask, why is this government spending hundreds of millions of bucks on failed programs behind bars which have a 3% success rate when the drug court should be rolled out right across the nation? We'll look at this. Stand by for James's story, and Roger Brooking as well will join us. Jump on the YouTube, TikTok, leave a message on any of the links here. We'll also celebrate the part-time worker with the part-time power list. It's news time. Here's MediaWorks Deputy News Editor. It is Grace Cocker. Very good morning to you.
The UN boss is pleading for safe passage into Gaza for workers so aid can be delivered. Reading comments to the Security Council this morning on behalf of Antonio Guterres, his cabinet chief says they face severe challenges.
Attacks on humanitarian aid workers and shelters, as well as strikes on or near health and humanitarian facilities, lawlessness and criminality are rampant.
A new report has revealed restraint and force has been used on disabled people living in care. More than 360 complaints were made to the Health and Disability Commissioner over 5 years. Author Rose Wall says some residents are too scared to speak up.
There's often a power imbalance where you've got people reliant on the support that they're receiving from one day to the next. Sometimes people have challenges communicating.
JD Vance has taken a swing at the Democrats in his first speech since being confirmed as Donald Trump's running mate. He's told a crowd this morning that change is desperately needed.
It is time to get rid of the corrupt Biden-Harris regime that has broken this country, that has ruined its reputation in the world, and most importantly has made a basic middle-class life less affordable.
And for the adventurous eaters, judges will taste their way through the Ice Cream and Gelato Awards this weekend. Some odd flavours in the running: masala ice cream with red chilies and coconut, and salmon and cream cheese gelato. To sport, and in rugby league,
the siren sounds, the Shield's heading back to Sydney.
New South Wales have won a brutal State of Origin decider, 14-4 on Sky Sport. Coach Michael Maguire proud to keep Queensland try-less at Suncorp Stadium.
I think it's probably up there, or if not, one of the best defensive performances to have Queensland not score.
To cricket, and the White Ferns are chasing 156 to beat England in the final T20 at Lords. And 4 Kiwi golfers tee off in the first round of the Open Championship tonight. Michael Hendry, Ryan Fox, Daniel Hillier and Kazuma Kobori. That's news and sport.
Thanks, Grace. I'll talk rugby league with you, but you're probably not interested.
I have no idea.
It was
no
a great
idea.
game. Oh, it was the best ever. Gelato flavours.
Weird, right?
Yeah, that's chili. Oh, what a mess.
My mum once at the Havelock Mussel Festival, South Island represent, we owned a bakery, and she entered a savoury ice cream mussel flavour, 2 types, sold out. Sold out twice, actually, I think. She made a couple of batches.
No.
I don't even like seafood, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, was it all right, was it?
Yeah, it's like a savoury, icy treat, but I mean...
Yeah. I once had a shoe flavoured one.
A shoe?
Yeah, shoe, yeah. It was in the wire up.
Were you doing a shoey, or...?
No, it was a shoe, wasn't it? It was a shoe flavoured, like a musty old shoe, but it was actually all right.
I don't even know what that would taste like.
Yeah, not great, but it was okay. It was okay. It was passable. It was passable.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she believes me on that one. Okay, welcome, folks. A third of our prison population suffers from some kind of drug or alcohol addiction, and we spend more than $300 million shoving courses and programs in front of them whilst in jail, which are mostly hopeless. A Justice Ministry review found that these programs had a positive impact on just 3% of prisoners. It's an abject failure for 97% of people. What has worked is when we send these prisoners to one of the 3 drug courts in New Zealand. Judges say it transforms their lives. Prisoners get treated, and they're also held to account. They get drug tested, so they can't get away with anything. But they get treated on health grounds. Our next guest is a shining example of what works. James Sturch was a meth addict. He spent his 21st birthday in prison. Nothing worked until he was put before the drug court. He spent his whole 20s in prison. Until then, his life was an endless cycle of drug abuse, rehab, relapse, reoffend, then prison. James is drug-free because he went through the drug court and he remains drug-free today. Firstly, James, g'day, mate. Nice to see you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan.
It feels good, does it?
Yeah, it feels amazing.
So you've been, drug-free 3 years?
So coming up to 3 years now, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you spent all your entire 20s in prison?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I had my 20th in Spain, and then my 21st birthday I was in Mount Eden prison, the old rock, and I don't think I had a birthday out of prison until I was like 32. So.
What went wrong? What happened?
So a bit about my story is, so I grew up in West Auckland with my parents, the alcoholics. My father wasn't much of a role model. I didn't have any. They didn't set any values or goals in my life. They just showed me that, you have a good time, you drink. You have a bad time, you drink. And I grew up with that resentment towards my parents, and I never wanted to end up like my father, an alcoholic, and didn't do well in school, wasn't motivated, fell in with the wrong crowd, and then eventually I fell into addiction for methamphetamine, and that basically took over my life.
So you are what you're created like, eh? So you're created by two parents who went sort of AWOL on you, and that's your life. That sets you up badly, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I was sort of a product of my environment, really. Yeah. And my sisters moved to the UK, and they seen that my life was going sideways, and they told me to go over there, spend some time with them, and I reconnected with them. It was amazing, and like I said, had my 20th in Spain. My plan was to come back to New Zealand, get back into work, save up a bit of money, and go back and live with them in the UK. But as soon as I came back to New Zealand, I fell back into addiction. And
so you're in prison for 10 years, on and off for 10 years, in and out. So you're doing courses in there, programs, all sorts of rehab stuff. Didn't work?
So every time I went to prison, you soon learn how to manipulate the parole board to tick the boxes to get out. And because you're in such a destructive environment in the prison system, you're not in a therapeutic environment. You're in a very negative, egotistical environment. As soon as you show vulnerability or open up and talk about your feelings or what's going on for you, become a victim, become a target. You can't really open up and heal. So the environment that you're in is just everyone's there to tick a box, to get the parole board, to get to the next best unit. You have to be put into a therapeutic environment to truly heal. Yeah,
you need a health unit, don't you? You need a health approach, which is what you got with the drug court. So when you were sent to the drug court, how did that work?
So I think after my last stint was a 4-year, 8-month stint, I got released into treatment. I went into a rehab out in the community, 4.5 months intense treatment. But one thing I learned that is, rehab will get you clean, but it won't keep you clean. And as soon as I graduated that treatment, there was like, here's a door, you're free to go. And I was out in the community after spending all my 20s in prison. I had no life skills. And so basically I was left on my own. It kept me clean for a little bit. I got a job, started working in the field and in rehabs, and went to uni, got my level 4. But it wasn't long that I relapsed, and as soon as I relapsed, I fell back into that same pattern.
Because those are the only guys that you know. You spent 10 years in prison with these guys. They're your mates, I suppose. Yeah, well, the men that I met in prison became my so-called brothers, That was my whole existence, They were like the family bond that I've been searching for my whole life, and they made me feel wanted and gave me that sense of connection, but it was a false connection. It was a very antisocial connection. So when you finally got some decent treatment, how did that work through the drug courts? So what happened is I was lucky enough to enter the drug court, because when I relapsed, I ended up back in prison, and it was my lawyer who put in an application to the drug court, and he believed in me enough, and he fought for me to get into the drug court. Once I entered into the drug court, they put me back into a residential environment. But once I graduated that treatment, they did another wraparound support. I did so many intensive programs. And they kept drug testing you through this too, didn't they? Yeah, you're continuously drug tested. You got to do meetings. I did therapy, one-on-one counselling, men in relationships, restorative justice with my victims also. So the drug court set that up. So I had to sit down with my victims and explain to them what I was going through. How was that for you? It was a lot of anxiety. I was nervous, but it was less about me and more about them. I wanted to make sure that they knew that, I was an addict and what I did was wrong, and I was truly sorry for what I did. But the drug court, what it did was it set you up in a process, a health process. It didn't treat you as a criminal. It treated you as someone who was sick and needed help. Yeah, the first time I entered the drug court was the first time that the judge had actually looked at me and spoke to me like a human and said to me, you know what, James, we believe you can do this. And they just made me feel that I could do it, They made me feel like I was somebody instead of just another number. And since then you've been 3 years clean? Yeah, since then I've been 3 years clean, and I'm doing amazing. Got my life back, closed all my back doors. There was the number one key to that world and all my old associates. Because it's who you hang out with, isn't it? I mean, you can judge someone by who they hang out with, I suppose. Yeah. So you've closed the door on that. We've only got 3 drug courts. Yeah. Auckland and Hamilton. Do we need more? I reckon that they definitely need a drug court in every district, because it's
the success that I've seen come in the drug courts is amazing. And they don't only just work with the addict, but they also work with the addict's whānau. And when you walk into a graduation at the end of someone's journey through the drug court, it's an amazing experience. The family are in tears, and how much they're so grateful for the court, how they've given them back their family member.
And so you work in that environment now? That's what you do?
Yeah, I graduated the drug court, and now I work in the drug court for Odyssey, and I walk alongside our whai ora in the court on their own journeys through the drug court. Yeah.
That's so good, isn't it?
That's pretty powerful.
I mean, I can see it in your face. You're smiling and you're happy, and you belong somewhere, you know? You belong and you're doing good. When you look back at the courses that you did in prison compared to the course that you did through the drug court, they're chalk and cheese, aren't they? They're miles apart, aren't they?
Yeah, well, the courses that they have in prison are pretty simple, and like I said, they don't really do anything. They're there to tick a box to say, you know what, when they say there's a debate around, like, when an addict offends, put him in prison and then rehabilitate him, but you can't get rehabilitated in such a destructive environment.
Do you see anyone get rehabilitated in prison though? They talk about it, but you very rarely see results.
I've never met anyone that's gone to prison, did a rehab, and then stayed in that environment and come out and gone and said it's changed my life, you know, because you're stuck in that environment.
Well, what if there was no drug court for you? Where would you be?
So if I didn't, I know for a fact that I'd still be in prison today. If I didn't enter the drug court, because the drug court really did save my life. I'll either be in prison for the rest of my life, or I'd rather be dead, because I'm one of those addicts that once I pick up meth, I cannot stop until I'm in prayer.
What does it do? Well, what's it? How does it drive you?
So the meth just destroys me. I can't stop once I pick up, you know, and really? I turn into a very antisocial, destructive person, destroying everything around me, destroying relationships. You know, the path that it took me down was a very dark path. Yeah.
But you own it, though. What I really rate about you, what I think is fantastic about you, is that you own your shit.
Yeah.
You've dealt with it.
Yeah.
You've come out the other side. Tell me about life now. Tell me about you got missus and kids.
Yeah. So I've got a beautiful life now. I've got a partner, and we've got a beautiful baby girl. Amazing. You know, I healed all the relationships through my family by going through the drug court. I've got a good career. I'm honestly in the best position of my life that I could possibly be right now.
It's so great to hear someone so positive, you know, about something. Let's just spread these things out. I mean, we've got courts all around New Zealand. Yeah. We haven't got the facilities. I reckon this is what's holding the government back. We don't have the beds and the hospital beds and the facilities and the psychotherapists and all the people that we need, you know, because it costs money, right?
Yeah, well, it costs money, but I think it will cost the community even more just to lock these people up forever, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So and not fix them up. How bad is the meth issue now?
So I think the meth issue is very destructive in Auckland and in New Zealand. I think it's easier to get a bag of meth than it was to get a bag of weed these days, you know?
I think it was like that 5 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
And meth doesn't discriminate if you live in Parnell, if you live in Otara or West Auckland, you know, it attacks everyone on every level, you know.
Yeah, it's how the gangs make their money, right?
No, 100%.
That's how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations. You must feel good. What are you up to today?
So after this, I'm heading into work. I've got court today to work in the court, Auckland court.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I know you're a little bit nervous about coming in here, but how's the experience? All good?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate your time as well. And go well. Keep in touch and stay on the straight and narrow. I think no worries for you.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan.
Good on you, mate. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Garner.
Yeah, what a story. What an incredible story, and what an incredible fight back to get his life back. Not one birthday did he have outside of his 20s. He was in prison for his entire 20s. Not one birthday did he have outside of prison. Now, you remember in your 20s what you doing on your birthdays? You went to the pub, you did all sorts of things. You had a great time. He didn't have one birthday outside of prison in his 20s. It's incredible. Send us your feedback. All the details are there on the screen, and let us know what your thoughts are. We need more of these drug courts. I mean, and they're cheaper than what we're spending anyway. Roger Brooking is a criminologist who's researched addiction and how best to treat it. He says drug courts not only work, but they save us money. But this government's no plans to extend the drug courts, and Brooking is gravely concerned that we're heading in the wrong direction. Drug courts require specialist services to be available, and I wonder if this government isn't prepared to invest to front up with those services. Roger, nice to have you on the program. G'day.
Cheers, Duncan. Yep.
I've always looked at your work over the years. I've always admired what you've done. This is a no-brainer. There's your evidence. You've just seen it for the last 10 minutes. What more can we say?
Well, exactly. I mean, James is probably a very typical example of a success story which came about entirely 100% because he was sent to the drug court. And I thought what he said about doing rehab programs in prison was absolutely true. Basically, prisoners do those programs because the parole board will not release you early until you have done some kind of rehab program in prison. So the prisoners treat them, as James said, as a tick box exercise. They sit in the chair for 3 months or 6 months or however long the program is, and then they've got a good chance of getting out. The problem is when they do get out, they're back to the same environment and nothing changes.
When you look at that qualitative research around it, I've looked at some of those Justice Ministry reports. I think it was 2021, and it said that basically they have an impact, a good impact on prisoners of about 3% of prisoners, 97% failure rate. Why are we spending hundreds of millions of bucks on these programs if that's the result? Why don't we just stop doing stupid things like that?
Well, that's a good question, Duncan. And I've thought about, why have successive governments in New Zealand continued to fund rehabilitation in prison? And I think it's kind of all about penal populism. For the last 20 or 30 years, New Zealand has been locking up more and more people. And, it's driven by the likes of Garth McVicker and the so-called Sensible Sentencing Trust. So we've locked up so many people that, in 2018, I think we had roughly 10,000 people in prison in New Zealand. And that gave us one of the highest rates of imprisonment in the OECD. And because we've got so many people in prison, whoever was the corrections minister, either under a national government or a Labour government or whatever, said, well, we need to rehabilitate these people as well. So the corrections minister, whoever that may have been, has ended up with more say over funding for rehabilitation than the Minister of Health.
Yeah, they should be anywhere near it.
The government has just poured millions and millions of dollars into rehabilitation programs in prison that simply do not work.
We might as well just get the money, hire a chopper, and chuck the money out into the middle of the ocean, because it's going nowhere. And I've looked really closely at this stuff, and James is an example. Now, James costs a lot of money, so we had to look after James for 10 years in prison, so that's almost $1 million, and then we had to put him through the drug court. That was the best investment, was the stuff at the end there. Now, why don't we have more drug courts? Because they're not more expensive than the rehab courses, are they? They're not outrageously more expensive, but they're way better.
Well, if you compared the cost of going through through a drug court with the cost of ending up in prison and doing some kind of rehabilitation program in prison, I think that the drug court would be 10 times cheaper, because it now costs approximately $150,000 a year to keep one person in prison. If you put them in the drug court, the drug court also, one of the reasons it's so successful, Duncan, is because each of the 3 drug courts in New Zealand, there's 2 in Auckland and 1 Hamilton, each of those 3 drug courts only has a maximum of 50 people going through the court at any one time. Now, what that means is that the judge is able to spend a lot of time talking to every single defendant on a weekly basis and ask them how they're going, give them encouragement, they're doing well, find out the results of the drug tests, and it just makes so much. You can see with James, just how much difference it makes.
Yeah, it does, but because we've got this new need, and we've got this new issue with this addiction around meth and so forth, that we need to fund the courts and give some resources to the courts and create more of these drug courts so we can meet the need. The need is great, and the need's greater than what it was 5 years ago and 10 years ago. So let's do something about it. The funding's there; it's just in the wrong place.
This is true. So in 2019, the Ministry of Justice produced a flawed analysis on how effective the drug court actually was. Andrew Little, who was Minister of Justice at the time, was totally gung-ho on drug courts. He knew they worked, and he wanted to roll them out nationwide and said that's what the government was going to do, the Labour government. Unfortunately, because the ministry stuffed up its evaluation, they ended up telling Andrew Little and Cabinet that drug courts basically are too expensive and that they don't work in the long run. Now, this was a seriously flawed analysis, but unfortunately, Andrew Little and his Cabinet colleagues didn't have enough knowledge about drug courts to know that the analysis provided by the ministry was totally flawed.
But it was wrong.
So
it was just wrong. It's just completely inaccurate.
It was. And the main inaccuracy probably was around the cost-benefit analysis. So that the ministry did a cost-benefit analysis and said that drug courts returned only $1.33 per dollar of operating costs. I did my own analysis of this, and I figured out that, in fact, the drug court returns about $7 per dollar of operating costs.
Yeah.
That's how effective it is. And it reduces the reoffending of graduates by 86% compared with 3% in a prison-based rehabilitation program.
It makes so much sense. But this government's got no intention of changing the pathway. Mark Mitchell, to me, looks like he's lost in the headlights again.
Yeah. Well, so what the government is now funding is a program called Tiara Marama, which is a sort of a feel-good program, which is being rolled out to every single district court in the country. The problem is that Tiara Marama, it doesn't have a goal of reducing reoffending. Its goals are fairly vague, and one of the key goals of Tiara Marama is that judges should be provided with comprehensive information about the defendants appearing before them. In order to do that, judges need, cultural reports, alcohol and drug reports, mental health reports, but the government has, abolished the funding for cultural reports, which was a key source of information for judges in court.
Yeah, no, I saw that. And then if you don't have the background information, what can you do? Hey, Roger, always good to talk to you, mate. I appreciate your time on the program.
Cheers, Duncan. All the best.
Okay, take care, mate.
Garner.
Yeah, a bit of feedback coming. Troy said, Duncan, well done to James. Keep up the sober life. Seems like he's turned his life around. He really has. I knew a guy, I still know him actually. He was in the headhunters for 30 years. Did jail for about 20 years, and he's now got his 9 kids. 9 kids, that's a few. He's now got his 9 kids back. He's got a new wife, and he's left the gang because he went through the drug courts. So it works, but we just need more of them.
3
Right,
questions.
3 questions.
From the editor-in-chief.
Okay, here's number 1.
1.
At number 1 today, should Darlene Tana now resign from Parliament? God, yes. The release of the report into whether she was involved in the exploitation of migrant workers at her husband's now failed bike business makes a mockery of her, and nothing to see here except no denials. No, nothing. I mean, she's balls deep in this. Darlene Tana, you've misled all of us for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. Your behaviour hasn't met that required to be an MP, and the evidence shows you have trouble telling the public the truth. We pay you $170k a year to be an MP, but the contract is now broken. You only have yourself to blame. Put yourself out of your misery and quit for your own sake.
2.
And number 2, is anyone likely to vote in the upcoming Tauranga local government elections? You'd think there might be more interest given the city's been run by commissioners for 5 years and hasn't had democracy since 2020. I think there are more candidates than there are votes cast. Just 20% of the city's done this advanced voting. Some wards it's as low as 16%. Don't vote, don't complain.
3.
And number 3, now we've got some really hard data about this, but this is about the man flu. Is man flu real? I've thought so, actually. But now we've got this hard data. A nursing professor in Brisbane researched the topic and surveyed women and men suffering similar flu-like symptoms. And between day 5 and day 8, the women got better faster than the rates of men getting well. Men's symptoms just remained. They just dragged on for longer. They moaned and groaned, and on day 8, they still were looking for sympathy. So, yeah, it looks like the man flu actually is a real thing.
Garner.
We always knew that, though, didn't we? Right, let's talk about part-time work, and work hard and work long. That's been the sort of Kiwi motto, hasn't it, since forever. But is that the only way? Introducing the New Zealand part-time power list, the first list that celebrates employers and individuals that are changing the system by proving that you can build your career and not sidestep it through meaningful sort of part-time roles. The last employment survey showed almost 600,000 Kiwis are working part-time, and I wonder if they actually do far more than part-time. I bet they do. List creator and founder of Works for Everyone, a working parents consultancy, Emma Mclean, joins me now alongside part-time power worker Lee Starrveld. Nice to see you both. Welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you for having us.
Nice to see you. Long time haven't seen you for a while, eh?
No, I used to pick you up from rowing practice at Lake Papuki.
Don't tell everyone. Was I mouthy? Was I mouthy in the back of the car?
Of course. Is there any other way?
Hey, so tell me, so how does this work?
So I have been working with parents for about 6 years now after a corporate career. And one thing I noticed when parents return to the work, they're often coming back part-time because they have a lot of demands on their time. And you're a parent, Duncan, so you understand that. And we're slap bang in the middle of school holidays, which is, by the way,
still
not a
going on.
holiday.
It's still going on, isn't it? When does it finish?
And what I really noticed was that when particularly mums return part-time, they often get relegated to the B team or to less senior roles, no people leadership. And I guess that comes as a real shock.
And who's doing that to them?
Career.
Is it men doing that?
Well, it's managers, it's companies. I don't think it's actually people. I think it's a system. We can't cope when people don't work full-time. And if you are not feeling worthy or valued at work, you leave. And if we ever want to close the pay gap, if we want to get more women at the top, we need to create meaningful part-time work.
So what you're saying is that the part-time worker is not taken seriously enough. When they return back into the workforce, they might do, say, 30 hours?
Yes.
Probably 40, actually. But they're paid for 30. And then they're not taken seriously. So they're not involved in the leadership group. They're not...
Yeah, they're not working on the juicy projects. And how do you build a career if you're not working on the juicy projects? One of my mums came back to work. She was a electrical engineer, and they got her folding T-shirts.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of
So we're
stories.
podcasting next. And so, do you think it's part of a cultural system? You think it's part of sort of it's ingrained in our approach?
I think it's what you said in your intro is bang on. I think we have this belief that working hard equals working long hours, and I think we need to bust that belief because it's 2024, and if we want equity at work, we have to realise that there's a whole lot of work at home that needs to be completed. For every baby that comes into your house, 60 hours per week of unpaid work. So it's lucky they're
cute.
What
it is? No wonder I'm knackered. I had too many. I had too many of them. Exactly. So how does it work for you, Melly? What's the situation with you?
I came back after my first child, feeling like I was in a snowstorm, doing the 40 hours a week. I work for a team across Asia Pacific, so a lot of it was being on calls for Asia hours as well in the evenings, and trying to get the kids, fed, awake, clothed, and then off to daycare, and then work, and then just life.
Yeah. It's a
It was
shitstorm,
just
isn't
falling
it?
over. Yeah. Are we allowed to say that?
You can say that. I just said it because it's true.
Yeah.
So
I reached a point where I was like, this either something changes or I'm just giving it all up. So I was very lucky that my role was rescoped to 4 days a week, and it just means you've got a time to stop and take a breath and actually get your head above water.
I reckon, but I also think that when parents come back into the workforce, that they're really focused, that they're really good at their job, that they make the most of their hours, that they're a way better worker than they were previously. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And we get sidelined. I mean, when I worked part-time, I've got 3 kids. They're all teenagers, so they're all asleep, obviously. And
of course they won't be waking. I heard that.
They're mostly nocturnal now.
Mine wakes up about 11:30 during the day.
Yeah, I mean...
Which is good because half the holidays are gone.
So I totally agree with you. Part-time workers are so efficient and so productive because we are doing more than we have ever done. When I worked part-time, I was being the lead parent for 3 kids, a dog, and a husband.
Well, what? Get rid of the dog? Or?
Yeah. The dog's the only one that everyone loves.
I think also when
It's true story.
when you have little ones, you spend your whole day singing, the wheels on the bus. So you're quite happy to have some adult conversation and actually, read something that's not the same bedtime story 20 times. Read an article.
This is a line sort of in the sand for recognition.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It is.
This is about acknowledging and recognising that these people are as good as full-time workers.
Yes.
Or maybe even better.
Well, and also that you can build your career through these roles. If women particularly feel like they are being sidelined, they will leave or they will, start their own business. And we need women at the top, meaning...
But some of these top companies, they do target the woman that they want, and then say, right, you're coming back 4 days a week. That's fine. My neighbour is on a 1-year maternity leave at the moment. She's had a baby. Her employer rang her yesterday after 1 month and asked her to come back because she wasn't coping. How's that pressure? You can't do that.
And that's at a time when, as a parent, you were already feeling vulnerable. You are already worried about your job. You are already sleep deprived.
You're worried about everything.
You're worried about everything. But for me, the real success here is that we're not just talking about mums. Like, I want dads to have the opportunities to work part-time, to be more flexible working, because that's the change we need. No, because
but the best work I do now is at home. Like, I prepare for this entire show. It's all at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm distracted here. I go talking to people and I'm silly, and I go up to the water cooler and I talk to it, and I talk to everyone else, and I look for friends.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm much more efficient at home.
Yeah.
You know? Andrew Barnes does a good job, the 4-day working week.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's good, but I'm just not seeing that in the large New Zealand businesses I work with. I am not seeing this change.
So how do we get change then?
Through the part-time power list. If you can't see it, you can't be it. I want to prove that you can be senior and work part-time. I have got partners from KPMG there, partners from PwC, Russell McVeigh. I have got operations managers, May Lee, who runs an entire APAC marketing team. I mean, you can do this. We need some innovation and job design, and that's my call-out to New Zealand corporates.
Can you put me on there as well? Can you put me on that list
and
now?
I'll get Duncan Garner on that list as well.
How's your employer, how does he or she cope with your approach? Are they good with it?
Actually, I'm very lucky that he was good with the approach. He's also got 2 kids, so he understands kind of the struggle.
The struggle's real.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
It is though, isn't it? So there was never any sort of. What about other people in the office, other senior people? Do they look sideways at you or anything? Or?
My whole gripe with this thing is it feels like a dirty little secret because he said to me. Oh, dear, because I came up with this idea. Like, nobody volunteered the idea to me and said, do you want to try and work part-time?
We'd like you to go 3 days. We think you're more efficient.
Yeah. But, so I came with the idea after having been through a whole coaching program, and he goes, yeah, that's all right. Do you want to just do it, like, as a trial, and, just between you and us, and we just don't tell anyone? And I said, no, I want this to be above board. Yeah. Like, we don't have to go singing and dancing, advertising it, which is great because now we're on radio talking about it.
BTW, we are.
Well, it's 2 years on now, right? So I've proved it can work.
Exactly.
But I said, no, I want this to be above board because 99% of my marketing team is female of childbearing age.
Yes.
So there's going to be more of us. And for me, it's about proving that I still have value. I can still deliver a hell of a lot for this team and for this business, even if I'm only 4 days a week.
See, it's easy to feel not valued. You get into your 40s and 50s, and then you do that part-time, and you think, am I valued anymore? Because no one's inviting you to those meetings. You're not in any of the email chains. You're thinking, how did this just happen all of a sudden? Is it because I'm at home one day a week? And I bet you do work on that day that you're at home as well.
Actually, I'm pretty good at drawing a boundary. I think that's where I'm a bit different from some of the other power listers. I'm like, nah, Friday is my day off. Calendar's blocked out. I don't answer calls. Yeah. If I join a meeting, it's because I choose to.
Good on you. See, this is what I've struggled with my whole life, is saying no. Is it, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, yes, I will do that, but just being decisive around the no.
Oh,
I mean, I was at my father's, and when he was dying in a hospice, and I took the day off because I wanted to spend some time with him. I got a call from work to come back in and do something because there was a breaking story. I still think about this to this day. It pisses me off.
I mean, it's such a good point, Duncan. And what I see in my work is if you were bad at setting boundaries before you became a parent, that gets amplified.
Doesn't it, though?
Because now
with each of those kids that comes along.
Yeah, these pesky little kids that have all these demands. No, in fairness, we are working in a system that doesn't value caregiving. What happens when our kids get sick? Look at the price of childcare in this country.
I know. But just look at we don't value them.
No,
we don't have any value in the fact that we are parents.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no economic value on it.
No.
There's no like,
Marilyn Waring wrote a paper on that in the 1980s to value it. If we valued unpaid work, it would be the biggest economy in the world.
I took 4 weeks off when I had the first child, and when I went back I was working on the homes program then, I just couldn't wait to get back to work for a holiday.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard.
You know?
I had 3 children under 5. You know why I went back to work.
They let you breed. I know too much about you. Hey, it's been great talking to you guys. How should you, just my final question, how would you approach your boss to say, hey, buddy, looking at going 3.5 days, how would you do it? How do you sort of broach it? Trepidation?
I certainly had a lot of that. I came into the conversation assuming that I was going to get a big fat no, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was otherwise. But I think you just need to be prepared, be confident in yourself and the value that you can bring. You know, if you've got a good track record, bring it along and say, here's all the stuff that I've delivered, but also be prepared for a conversation about having a firm boundary that I'm not just going to do a 5-day job in 4 days, because that's not gonna nobody wins when you do that.
You get a pay cut for that.
Yeah, totally.
It's all pro rata.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's just be firm in what you want, but be flexible in how that's going to work and what that looks like in practicality.
I reckon there's more productivity in part-time.
Totally.
And
totally.
Andrew Barnes says the same thing.
Yeah.
And more loyalty.
Yes.
The staff will stay around.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think when you feel seen as an employee, that engenders loyalty. I mean, parents aren't wanting this extra time to loll around and watch Netflix. There are 60 hours of unpaid work every week in your house. How does that get completed? I don't want parents burning out. Part-time needs to be a viable career path.
Yeah. And so where can people see the power list? Where do they have it?
On my website, worksforeveryone.co.nz, and it's full, all the profiles of 25 amazing New Zealanders, 23 women, 2 men.
We need more men on there. We need more men.
It's the only power list with more women than men, and I want that to be reversed.
Our sports guy on this program, Johnny Day,
Yeah.
he's gone 3 months leave now. Is it 3 months leave? John's on 3 months leave having a second child.
Yeah, amazing. And
You
that's
know?
what we need, and I want to see more of that culturally in New Zealand. It's really important. It's how we shift the dial.
I knew you'd be a leader one day. Hey? Those toga
not.
parties.
I think you're thinking about my brother,
Oh, maybe
not
I was.
me.
Maybe I was. Maybe you're both there. Hey, nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
All
Thanks
the
very
best.
much.
Yeah, well done. And well done too.
Duncan Garner.
Lots of feedback coming in. Is 30 hours part-time or full-time? Well, 30 hours. You're probably doing 40, getting paid for 25, maybe. Something like that. 0800 863 293. All the details how to get hold of us are right here on the screen. Let's slam it.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, that was fascinating. Right, newsflash, folks. This recession is coming to an end. Here's why. Yesterday, the government reported inflation had dropped to 3.3%. Never before have I been so interested in the official inflation figure. At 3.3%, it's fair and accurate to say we have finally got on top of this beast. And I never thought I'd see banks start cutting their interest rates voluntarily, even before the Reserve Bank has officially cut the OCR, which sets interest rates, right? Adrian Orr has strangled the economy to a point that it's barely moving, and these big Aussie-owned banks haven't bothered to wait for Orr's next move. ANZ has shed 0.3% off most of its top-line interest rates as of yesterday. They've moved despite him and without him. The banks even know it's dead out there, and they're trying to breathe some life into this New Zealand economy. Without Orr, it means that Adrian Orr's mission is almost complete. We have, for the last 2 years, borne the brunt of this orchestrated, man-made recession, as we have struggled to get prices and costs under control. This is a man-made, New Zealand-made recession. We have endured the painful and slow fight to bring it down from its peak of 7%, and it's now close to where it needs to be for Adrian Orr to start officially bringing the OCR just back a bit. Make no mistake, inflation's our enemy. It sucks money and the life from our economy and from your pockets. It is evil. We simply spent far too much. We printed too much money. We put too much money in there. In that we had it low for far too long, and when it came time to tighten, we had to go the whole hog real quick. At that same time, I had to sell my house. No one showed up at the auction. No one came to the open homes, despite the hours getting it ready. No one showed, because it was in that period, that terrible time. I could smell death in the market at the worst time for me. Try explaining all this to the ex and to the divorce lawyers wanting a paycheck, and, the recession started to get even more edgy for me. Then Today FM went under. This is my experience of this recession, and I needed more than just a 1 hour free counselling session I saw advertised above the urinal, at work. But wait, there's more. Let's launch a new live podcast show right as the second slump comes, which was in March, and I had agreed to be paid for this through some revenue structure. Where's the revenue? Guess what? The market's fallen. The arse has fallen out of the market. Revenue dried up. I've always been up for a challenge, but boy, this has tested me, this recession, like it has so many others. I guess no one is immune, and I've lived this recession and felt it. Did I mention the NBR dropped all its paid columnists as well about the same time? Yeah, I was in that one too. Good on them. I thought about chucking in journalism and broadcasting during this recession, and becoming a corporate shrill, like a shiver looking for a spine to crawl up, something like that. But I couldn't defend banks taking record profits during our time of need, and I certainly couldn't defend the power companies taking $2.7 billion from our pockets as profit. using the assets that we've paid for our entire life. Shareholders won, the rest of the New Zealand public like me nil. It's been an angry, nasty period where the cost of this is so obvious now at the very street level. For everyone to see, they can see it. Closed shops, retail's in crisis, restaurants and cafes are going under, and the very desperate have resorted to crime and antisocial behaviours on a scale that we've never seen before in this country. At its worst, some people have lost the plot. They've lost everything. Not just your disposable income, but in the worst cases, you've lost your job, your livelihood, maybe your house, and it's been a brutal and long recession. And the banks have finally realised this, that enough is enough, and they've not waited for the OCR to come down. They've preempted it. They've beaten Dr. Death, otherwise known as Adrian Orr, to the punch. It tells us so much more that he's been beaten to the punch. The property market is in tatters, and the GFC was nothing compared to this slump. This is huge. We've lost a huge number of hard-working New Zealand taxpayers to Australia and abroad, and we may live to regret that. They are the tax base of the future. We simply spent too much, and we went willy-nilly crazy with the chequebook under Grant Robertson, and Adrian Orr sat there in silence. And he was far too silent. He agreed. Then I thought, confidence has sagged so much that it may take a year or two for us to actually get our mojo back, and it probably will. But we'll be back because we're Kiwis and we're sick of the grim, and we're all desperate to smile again, I reckon. So we're not far away. Let's begin to back ourselves, New Zealand. It's now or never, and the conditions will soon come right. And there's no excuse then. We're a long time dead, and remember that. So let's start living again. We're not far off it. Let's go, guys.
Garner.
James said, this is your best slam dunk. Thank you, James. And you've listened to all of them. I know you have. You listened to all of them. Kalo, you feel like we're out of the recession now? The banks are moving. The banks are moving, mate. The banks got interest rates.
No.
No. You're Dr.
Everything's still expensive.
Yeah, I know. Oh, hey, Miranda found a great example last week. The Vogel's bread was cent cheaper.
1 cent?
Yeah.
Oh,
first time in 6 years.
What the effing do?
I know.
This Adrian Orr guy, I don't know what he's been doing.
Oh, he's right royally stuffed this up because this is a man-made, orchestrated New Zealand recession. We've orchestrated this. We were going gangbusters, then suddenly, whoops, we spent too much. So we orchestrated this.
He needs to get his oar and get in his waka and row in a different direction.
Well, he's stuck his oar and he wasn't welcome, you know.
Yeah, up his own backside.
Oh, that's us. This is available as a podcast very shortly once Kalo gets off his backside and gets it up online. So it'll be on Rover shortly wherever you get your podcast. I really enjoyed today's show. God, they were good. They're part-time workers. Just want to stop for a second. Acknowledge them, reward them. They're just as good as full-time workers. So some full-time workers I see around here do absolutely F all. You can't judge someone just because they're in the office, 10 hours a day. I've said to Miranda, go home, you're working too much. Go home and do it from home, No, you are not. You're 110%. So to my team, Caleb, Miranda, Forrester and Serena, thank you guys. We'll do this all again tomorrow. Remember, this is no dress rehearsal. This is no curtain raiser. This is the life that we live. We're in it. So let's get out and enjoy it. Take care, folks. Thanks for listening.
That was Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live. Missed something on the live stream? Text Duncan to 3598 to listen back on the podcast. Want to get in touch? Call 0800 863 293.